Hello guys, what's up? Welcome back to another video. My name is Tempest, and in the background is some Final Fantasy XIV gameplay, although this video is about Roblox. It's not about Final Fantasy XIV. Just decided to put that in the background because I didn't really know what else to put back there, so enjoy that, I guess. When I first got the idea of doing a video like this, I didn't really know how I wanted to go about it because there was a few different things I wanted to talk about. I wanted to talk about Rolymons, I wanted to talk about some other trading sites, and I wanted to talk about trading itself, but I didn't really know how to go about doing that, so this video is just kind of a general health check on the trading scene. Now before I get too deep into it, I just want to say overall, the trading scene's not failing because of a lack of players. There's plenty of people that are interested in trading and have items. It's not because of that, it's because of some other reasons. So for starters, Rolymons itself has really been dropping the ball lately. They've obviously had a lot of problems in the past as well, like for example, some of the higher ups were plugging items. If you don't know what plugging means, it's basically where you get a poisoned item for a really cheap price. And it's really messed up because you're obviously circulating the poisoned item even more. You're taking it away from a person who was potentially scammed, and you're putting it further into the ether and making it harder to recover. And that's kind of just a bad thing to promote in general, and for people higher up in Rolymons to be doing that is kind of messed up in itself. There's also, of course, the giant diamond crystal circlets scenario. Basically what happened was Rolymons randomly put diamond crystal circlets on discussion, and that was really weird, and nobody really understood why that was happening because it was kind of just a weird low tier wrap item and it didn't really have any extra value added to it, and the proofs for it weren't really that good either. It was on discussion to get a value, and to a lot of people's surprise it actually ended up getting a value, which didn't really make a lot of sense because the item was just sort of a random low tier wrap item. Now I say it didn't make sense, but it actually did end up making sense later on because it was found out that some of the value changers actually had alternate accounts that had diamond crystal circlets on them, like 200 plus diamond crystal circlets that were stocked up on a value changer's alternate account, which is absolutely crazy. It sounds like a great giant conspiracy basically, and that's really what it is. But there was actual accounts found that had a huge stock of diamond crystal circlets saved up for when this value change happened so that they could actually profit a whole ton off of that. I'm not going to name names here because obviously this happened quite a while ago and so it's sort of a moot point by now, but it is an example of the issues that can happen with a value changer system where there's sort of an oligarchy of people that are determining the values of items instead of having the values completely controlled by the community. There's some other issues here and there, but the one thing that I really wanted to talk about in specifics with Rolymons is going to be the recent rule they actually made where they said that items that are overpaying for similar items of value are not actually going to be able to get value changes despite them getting overpays themselves. Now that may have not made any sense to you, and that's perfectly fine. The rule itself actually doesn't make any sense. So the first victim of this rule change was Frozen Horn. Now at the time, Frozen Horns was getting around 40 to 50k overpays, which is really good. That's extremely strong for a demand item especially. But Rolymons decided not to change the value of Frozen Horns because it was overpaying for items that had a lower value than it at the time. Here's the problem though, and I'm going to be displaying this with just some simple math on screen, but basically the items that it was overpaying for were themselves getting huge overpays. So basically, let's pretend that you have an item that's worth 100,000 Robux, and commonly your item is overpaying for an item that has a value of 50,000 Robux on the Rolymons website. So based on Rolymons values specifically, you are actually overpaying 50,000 value. However, the item that you're overpaying for, let's say it actually gets 50k overpays itself normally. That means that the actual trade value that you're doing is a 100,000 for 100,000. It's just that the values on the Rolymons website are not correctly updated, and the overpays that the item gets is not reflected correctly on the Rolymons website. Based on the Rolymons rule, your item would actually be up for a drop rather than just being a stable valued item at 100,000. They would actually consider dropping your item because it's overpaying for an item that's worth 50,000 Robux on their website. This is obviously really stupid because your item is getting stable value at 100,000 Robux and it's able to trade stably for 100,000 Robux worth of value. So because Rolymons is simply slow at updating values, your item actually gets screwed, not for any other reason. Now like I said, this happened to Frozen Horns, but to be honest, I wasn't exactly updated on Frozen Horns proofs up until that point, so I'm not going to talk on that further. However, an item that I was closely monitoring because I owned it was Dominus Praefectus. Dominus Praefectus was the second victim of this new, very dumb illogical rule, and not only was it a victim of the rule, it was a victim of Rolymons corruption on top of that. So here's what happened. When Dominus Praefectus went on discussion, it was actually getting 50 to 60k overpays, and I even had submitted proofs myself that had overpays of up to 85k and more. So the item was doing absolutely phenomenal. It was getting a huge amount of overpays, and those overpays themselves with pretty strong items themselves. By every measure of simple mathematics, Dominus Praefectus should have rose at least 20k, even if Rolymons wanted to be extremely conservative. Honestly, it should have risen 30 or even 40k. But you know what Dominus Praefectus ended up doing after Rolymons was done discussing it? It failed discussion because it was overpaying for items that were cheaper than it on the Rolymons website. The item in question that it was overpaying for, Archduchess of the Federation, which at the time was getting over 150k overpays. And up on screen right now is a few more proofs that A.F had before it rose. So let's do some simple math here. I don't know if this makes it easier to understand, but as you can see, the Rolymons values are not taking into account the overpays that the item gets, which makes it look like Dominus Praefectus is actually lowballing, when in reality, it's not. It's actually just getting equal trade value. The other more obvious problem here is that by not updating Dominus Praefectus's value and failing it in discussion, Rolymons was essentially saying that it was correctly valued at 400k, which is a complete farce if you ask me, considering it was getting 50 to 60k overpays consistently and even getting up to 80 to 90k. This may or may not have been caused by the fact that there were multiple Rolymons value changers that were actually posting trade ads trying to get Dominus Praefectus for 30k or even lower. So I don't know if that had anything to do with it, but it is a little bit fishy. Now after Dominus Praefectus failed discussion, much like Frozen Horns, it actually ended up pulling back quite a bit and getting a lot lower value in trades than it previously was. And I can tell you for a fact this happened the exact day that it failed discussion because I owned the item. People were trying to get Dominus Praefectus for 20k overpay, for 10k overpay, even lower than that. They were even trying to get Dominus Praefectus for low balls. People were rabid to get the item because they knew that it had a lot of potential and they knew that it had strong overpays. It's just that Rolymons had decided to kill the item, which is obviously extremely corrupt. The overarching issue here is that they're a value site. They have a responsibility to the community to correctly update values and to maintain a strong, healthy value system. And right now, that is just simply not happening. You can even look at extremely strong demand items like CF or Valkyrie Helm that are now worth a complete shadow of what they were before because of Rolymons' new restrictions. There's this weird sort of shilling that goes on for Rolymons because people believe that there is a community input here. They believe that the community is the one controlling the values, when in reality it is simply decided by the oligarchy of value changers themselves. Sure, people can submit as many proofs as they want, and the proofs can be as valid or as invalid as they possibly want, but it doesn't matter. The Rolymons is not going to do the correct thing here, and they're going to create rules off of their own volition just to make items fail that they don't like. The final example of corruption that I want to touch on before we move into trading in general is going to be the Doxed situation. So Doxed is another trader in the community. He's a really nice guy, and he actually owns RBLX.trade. Also, as a side note, I don't have any affiliation with RBLX Trade or with Rolymons. I don't have affiliation with either of them. I'm simply a third party here that's witnessing some issues going on with Rolymons. Now, the main issue here is that Doxed actually hoarded Neon Green Crazy Crown, and then someone else had hoarded Ops Warrior. And Rolymons actually decided to update these values extremely inaccurately, and they were being extremely biased against Neon Green Crazy Crown simply because Doxed owned it. And if you want the actual full rundown on that and the full proof, Doxed actually made a full video that I'll link in the description below. I'm not going to go over it again because he already did, and I think his video is a really good example of this corruption here. So if you want to go ahead and watch that, that's going to fill you in on the whole situation. Alright, so now on to trading in general and how it's actually having some issues. Now the main problem here is that nobody is sending trades. I know that sounds a little bit weird, but it's just randomly happening despite there being a huge amount of people that are posting trade ads all the time and a huge amount of people that are interested in trading. People are just simply not sending trades. Now if you're a plugger or a BMer or someone that does something like that, then obviously you're not going to be experiencing the same problem. But if you're a fully legitimate trader that just wants to make profit off of getting correct items and getting correct items for lower values and then flipping them for higher values, then you're going to be pretty screwed right now, especially if you have follow descend on. Now I do this exact thing. I have follow descend on because I don't care about bot trades, and I consider myself to be a perfectly legitimate trader. Now if I put out trade ads every single 15 minutes for the entire day, and I go on AFK and Trade Hangout and advertise my items as much as I possibly can, I'm probably going to get around 4 trades sent to me the entire day. and that's with an inventory that's actually worth around 700,000 Robux. So considering I have all of this value and all of these different items that people could want, only getting 4 trades an entire day is absolutely ridiculous. Now, it's hard to say exactly what's happening here, but my guess would actually be that people are just simply scared to trade because they don't know anything about it. People have a bunch of value either through USDing or plugging, or maybe they just got value by being lucky in trades, but they just don't know how to trade fundamentally. They don't know how to look at proofs, they don't know what items get in overpays, and they don't know how to send fair trades. So instead of doing any of that, they're too scared to send offers because they think they're going to be overpaying too much, and so they don't. They don't send any offers whatsoever, and they just have you send to them. And if you've traded at all, you've probably encountered somebody that is not willing to send you a trade and actually wants you to send to them just because they're too scared to send to you for a number of reasons. Another thing here is obviously proof baiting. People are not willing to send you trades and want you to send to them because they want to proof your trade and have their item raise eventually. This is basically just where they're camping, sitting on one item and waiting for offers to come in so that they can post them as proofs and get their item eventually raised. They're not willing to actually ever trade the item. They just want to sit there and camp on the item, which is extremely annoying and very unhealthy. With the Rolymons corruption mixing into this whole sending trades issue, it's causing a very bad trading economy and a very bad ecosystem here that is a huge deterrent to new traders. So we're not going to have new people coming into the economy and fixing this anytime soon because there are so many deterrents here. The only way to really fix this is by educating people as much as you can, and if you really want to have a healthy trading economy that doesn't rely simply on plugging and BMing, then you're just going to have to go and try to educate as many people as you can. Furthermore, and again, like I said, I don't have any affiliation with either of these two sites, I would recommend using RBLX Trade over Rolymons. There are of course some cons with RBLX Trade, but overall it's definitely not a corrupt area. They actually have a genuine interest in furthering the trading economy and making a more healthy ecosystem for traders, so I would definitely recommend using them over Rolymons, and hopefully you guys are able to do that. I think there are some things with Rolymons that I do like, but they're going to have to definitely shape up their act and do a lot better and try to get rid of some of those corrupt value changers if they want to go ahead and move forward. Anyway, that's what I got to say on this subject. I'm going to be posting another episode of Earl of Trading at the earliest convenience. I'm kind of taking a break from trading to play some other games like Final Fantasy XIV, and I would suggest that you try to do the same thing as well because, like I said, the economy is very unhealthy right now unless you're doing something that is not fully legitimate. Thanks for watching. Leave a like if you agree, leave a comment below discussing your opinions on this, and of course subscribe for more content on Roblox trading in the future. See you next time. Peace.